I think one of the first things was confirming that we did have a gang problem here in Norwalk. The current administration came up several years ago out in public and denied the fact that we had a problem. I think by sweeping things under the carpet and denying that because of a reputation does not help the citizens of Norwalk, doesn't help our community. What are we going to do? We have community-based organizations that are out there now that are struggling and doing the best that they can, between Carver and Neon, and the organizations that are out there to try to come up with programs for the kids that are out there. The school system needs a better program as well for gang prevention, for crime prevention. We need to have people in the community that have a reputation that people can look up to. Now that's partly the law enforcement agency that we have. Getting the officers out on the street, into foot patrols, into the neighborhoods, and again, knowing who their officer is, who they can trust as they grow up. We need to infuse money into programs that will educate and actively involve all of the other students that are out there, or the kids that are out there, the families that are out there. And it's not just the kids. It's engaging the parents and the families to be strong and diligent on what's out there in crime. We need to go out into the communities. We also have to infuse some money into the communities and some of the businesses in some of the depressed areas and help finance some of these neighborhoods to clean themselves up, to give everyone a fighting chance, to give these kids jobs, to give the youth jobs. I shouldn't say that they're all kids. These are youth. These are young adults. We need to take, as a community, take charge of our streets, be diligent, give these kids something to look forward to, a future, and that's also bringing jobs, high-paying jobs to this community, and that's part of economic development, but I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit.
It's me now, Richard, right?
It is, well, Amanda took my,
Yeah.
so I don't have my notes.
Take my word for it, it was me. I think that, you know, when it comes to gangs, we have to realize in this day and age, and this has been a problem that's been going on for a long time here in the city, especially over the past decade, the lack of acknowledgement that we actually have a gang problem here in Norwalk, because we do. And the community has cried out numerous times to let people know, people in charge, people in leadership positions, that there are gangs in our schools, there's gangs in our neighborhoods, and there's been less than a very responsive approach to that for the past decade here in our community. So we have to acknowledge that just because there's a group of young African American and Hispanic and some white kids sprinkled in, they're congregated and they're wearing a certain color, that doesn't make those kids a blood or a Crip. Okay? And we need to be very clear about that, because in today's day and age, there's neighborhood gangs. There's gangs that arise from housing projects, and they're associated with one another, and it's this side of the neighborhood versus that side of the neighborhood. So we have to understand that our young people need opportunity, and that's why I talk about bringing a Boys and Girls Club here to our city, to give young people a positive opportunity to be around folks that can have a positive influence on their life. So with that said, I also talk about just overall enhancing the relationships between our troubled youth and leadership here in our city. And I plan to be the mayor that's going to go out there and establish those relationships and be that conduit between the neighborhoods and law enforcement, and utilize my platform as mayor to help embrace kids. That's why I talk about having a mayor's re-entry program, a program where for the folks that do fall down, we want to be able to wrap our arms around these kids and let them know that we support them when they get out of prison, when they make a mistake. You do have your own personal shot at redemption. And from a leadership standpoint in this city, we need to be very clear that that's the approach that we want to take. And as your mayor, that's the approach I'll take. Thank you.
You've heard me say it before, and I'll say it again. You cannot arrest your way out of a crime problem. You send a young person...
You're good.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Keep going on.
If you send a young person to prison, it costs more to send that young person to prison than it does to send them to college. You have to get to the young people before they get sent to prison, before they get in trouble. Our youth in Norwalk feel disenfranchised. They feel they have no place to turn because they don't have opportunities. I mentioned that I used to teach at Norwalk Community College, and I taught juvenile justice. All across the nation, studies were showing that the worst approach to a gang problem or a crime problem was a strong law enforcement approach. It was the least effective. The most effective was providing opportunities for young people. We need to reach out to the young people. We do have, the Norwalk Police Department does have and has for a long time, a program that when somebody comes back out of prison, they meet with their supervisor right at the police department. They meet with police officers from the community policing division to sit down and talk and say, you know what? We want you to succeed. We don't want you to go back to jail. I've also been talking to some of the trades unions. They're very, very, very interested in expanding their apprenticeship programs so that young people who may not be able to go to college, but we can ensure that they have an opportunity to graduate high school, that they can go on and learn a trade where they can feel a sense of accomplishment, feel that there is an alternative choice to gangs. So my feeling is we have to provide opportunities for our young people, to keep them out of prison from the beginning, to keep them from joining gangs, to make them realize the gang is not their family, the gang is not their friend, that the community is their friend, and that the community police officer is their friend.
Excuse me, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to make a quick little